Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the regular board meeting of January 22nd, 2024 of the Huron Valley Schools to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Ms. Grzymkowski.
Here.
I am present. Mr. Dimick.
Here.
Ms. Ryan.
Ms. Ryan is absent tonight, but I have been in contact with her, and our thoughts are with her.
Excellent. Ms. Dodd. Here. Ms. Cotter.
Here.
And Mr. Wiseman.
Here. Everyone
President
stand for the
accountable.
Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You have before you the agenda for tonight. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll support that.
All right. Motion was made by Member Dodd and seconded by Member Cotter. Could I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Dodd.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
Mr. Dimick.
Yes.
Ms. Grzymkowski.
Yes.
I am a yes. And Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Communications and reports. Items from the board president. I have a couple. One, I'd like to welcome all of you here tonight at the board meeting. As we do at every board meeting, we invite public participation. I once again want to thank you for attending our board meeting. In the back, we have citizens participation forums. As always, we welcome our Huron Valley School community input and comments. If you do have any comments or concerns regarding an agenda or a non-agenda item, please fill out the forms that are out in the back and the requested information and return it to our Executive Secretary, Mrs. Cadell, over here on the rostrum. And generally, the participants will have 3 minutes to present their comments when recognized by myself. And at that point in time, you will be invited to present comments. This is not a time for dialogue, but at the same time, it's a time for us to listen. If there is some things that we need to do to act on, I will turn those comments over to our superintendent, Dr. Salah, and he will, along with his administrative team, address those issues and get back with you. So I just want to point that out to all of you. There will be 2 times that you'll have an opportunity to comment, 2 times within the agenda. One is as it relates to agenda items, and then towards the end of the meeting on non-agenda items. So with that, I only have a few comments. Number one, I do want to recognize during these winter months, we are all in this together as a school district, but I do not want to fail to recognize our transportation and our operations and maintenance people. The work that they do during these winter months are absolutely incredible, and our maintenance crew keeping our buildings up and operational is a challenge. And when you think about the number of buildings we have, I think it also drives home some of the reasons why we look at bond issues as being so important to us to keep things going, so those improvements can be made out of bond issues dollars as opposed to general fund that would have a direct effect on the classroom. At the same time, this month is Board of Education recognition. I just want to recognize my fellow board members for all that they do on a daily basis. You might see us in front of the camera at board meetings once or twice a month, but trust me, board members that surround me spend a tremendous amount of time of their own making certain that we are providing the very best that we possibly can to our students and staff. So I'm very, very fortunate to be part of a Board of Education that really is student-focused, and I just want to say thank you for all you do, and it's much appreciated. With that, we'll go on to the next item, which is recognition. Dr. Salah.
Thank you, and I would invite Ms. Rothler to the podium for this recognition.
Thank you very much. Tonight we want to recognize a group that has done many wonderful things for Huron Valley Schools. The Knights of Columbus Local 8500 of Highland has been supporting HVS for many years. Just recently, they dropped off a check for $1,200 in December for our adult transition program. In fact, the organization has donated over $12,000 to that program since 2020. The money they donate has been used to take students to Camp Dearborn, allowing them the opportunity to go canoeing, visit Frankenmuth, attend the movie theater, as well as many other outings. These outings allow our adult transition students to work in community involvement, safety skills, money management, communication skills, hygiene, and many other functional independence needs. They have purchased work shoes for our students who participate in work site programs. They have purchased hygiene supplies for students whose families experience financial hardship. So tonight we would like to recognize Grand Knight Kevin Webb, former Grand Knight Joe Silkowski, and Mr. Dillon for your generosity and continued support of Huron Valley Schools.
Thank you very much.
Here is yours. I didn't know if they were going to be here, but you can get them to them, and I know you had a few words to say.
That I will. You know, the Grand Knight and the former Grand Knight aren't here tonight, but I'm sure you'd rather be hearing from the treasurer since we're the ones that deliver the check. I want to thank the board for taking time out to recognize us for our Knights of Columbus. We've actually been supporting this for over a decade. I know that because I moved up here from South Bend, Indiana in June of 2013 and transferred to the Highland branch here up at Holy Spirit Church. When I transferred here, they had this thing called an MI drive. And I'm sitting there going, well, what the heck, we're in Michigan. Might as well be that. But I learned that MI does not stand for Michigan. What it stands for is the mentally impaired. And that's what we're here for. And that's what we do and who we support as part of our credo, and we're proud to do that. I remember one of the first checks that I dropped off to Darlene Garrison and all that. She had talked about an overnight camp for students and talked about how one of the parents burst into tears. And I'm sitting there going, we're not here to cause pain. And she turned around and she says, no, you just don't understand. She says, that was the first night in 17 years that these parents had to themselves. That's why we do what we do. We've supported you with our funds from our Tootsie Roll drives, if you see us standing out of there, as well as donations from our general fund. It's nice to be recognized by this board for what we do, but it's the teachers, the aides, and all the support people that do this day after day, week after week, month after month, and year after year. Those are the ones that are actually the heroes. We're just happy to be able to sit here and support you. So I thank you for this honor to the council, which I will take back, and we will continue to support you for many, many years. Thank you and good night. Thank you.
Did the board have anything to
Yes,
say?
I'd just like to take a moment on behalf of the entire board to say thank you. The work that you do has an incredible impact on our students and provides some of the necessary tools for our teachers. And the impact that you just described as it relates to the parents is extraordinarily important. So once again, on behalf of the entire board and our educational community, I'd just like to say thank you. Appreciate it. Any other comments? Yes, Amy?
The adult transition program here in Huron Valley is a point of pride for us. Not all districts have these programs. So I want to say personally thank you for what you do. The organization that I actually work for works with the adult transition program. And what I've found is that this is, it's a program that is incredibly necessary, but not everybody deems it as valuable. Here at Huron Valley, we do. And we really appreciate the Knights of Columbus for doing this as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Amy. Anything else? Seeing none? Once again, thank you. Next, Huron Valley highlights.
Thank you. This evening, we have 2 Huron Valley highlights. And to start us off, I actually have the proud principal of Kurtz Elementary School in the audience, and I believe we have a video. I'm going to let Mr. Chiswick introduce that this evening. He's not going up alone.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce the real brains behind the operation here at Kurtz. This is WKRZ News. Or in order. Hold on. Remember, you're in order. Oh, yeah. Joseph, good job.
Hello, my name is Joseph, and I'm a fifth grader at Kurtz. Each of us has been a part of the WKRZ team this year, and as a member of the team, we are able to work together on all parts of the news during our win time. Weekly announcements are a point of pride for our school. We work all week to get announcements ready for you, or everyone, to watch on Mondays. Right now, I'm an anchor, which means I'm in front of the camera. I really enjoy my job.
Hi, my name is Adeline Felt, and I have a segment that I created about birds. I research information and then I write my script. It is great to be able to share with students at Kurtz my interest in birds. One of my favorite things to do on the announcements is sharing my bird facts and filming my segment in the studio.
Hello, my name is Oliver. I share the weather weekly and also shared weather facts. Most importantly, I reminded Kurt's kids to dress properly for the weather.
Hi, my name is Max, and during the first card making, I was also an anchor, and now I fill in when the team needs me. I really enjoy being a part of the crew.
My name is Laura, and I'm a new anchor. I just started this month. I love that I get to practice my parts in a friendly community with my friends. This helps me become less shy when speaking in front of people.
Hi, I'm Emerson. I'm an editor on WKRZ News. My job is to get all of the footage into WeVideo and get it ready to share with the school each week. I really love being a part of WKRZ News each week. We have really learned a lot about the process of video production, and I really we make a difference at our school. Now let's watch this week's announcements. Play WKRZ.
Hello, Kurtz Cougars, and welcome to WKRZ. I am Joseph. Hello, Kurtz Cougars, and welcome to WKRZ. I am Joseph. This week's announcements will look different this week due to the snow days last week.
Hi, Kurtz kids. I'm Laura. Today is Monday, January 22nd, 2024. We hope everyone enjoyed the extra days off school last week.
We have some information to share with you. Here is Chris and Finley with birthdays.
Hey, Chris kids, I'm Finley. And I'm Chris. Let's acknowledge our 5 birthdays for the week. Take it away, Chris.
Happy birthday to Megan in Mrs. Fontaine's class and Ivy in Mrs. Hess's class.
Happy birthday to Lucille in Miss Dinnan's class and Maxim in Miss Spurlock's class.
Happy birthday to Kennedy in Mrs. Shaw's 4th grade class.
We hope you had a wonderful birthday.
And yep, you guessed it. Let's end it out with our fantastic birthday dance.
Happy birthday, Kurtz kids.
Now please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Here is Max speaking about the Huron Valley School Board.
January is School Board Recognition Month. In 1989, Michigan launched the program to acknowledge school boards. We are thankful for all the work the school board members do for Huron Valley School. Here is Abdullah spotlighting 2 of them.
Hi, I'm Abdullah, and today I'm going to be interviewing
Laura Dodd.
and she's a member of our school's board.
Yep.
And I want to thank her first for the stuff she does for Huron Valley schools. And let's go on to the first question. What is your connection with Huron Valley?
Sure, I live in Huron Valley. In fact, my daughter goes to Kurtz Elementary School. She's in 4th grade. And I'm a member of the Huron Valley Board of Education.
Okay. How long have you been a member of the school?
I've been a member of the school board for, hold on, I have to do some quick math here. About 4 years.
4 years?
Yep, about 4 years.
That's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
What is your role in the school board?
I'm the vice president of the school board. So our board has 7 members, and the superintendent serves with us too, so that makes 8. And each year we pick a president, vice president, treasurer, secretary from that group. And this year I'm the vice president, which doesn't really do very much. Vice president's a pretty easy job. The president, the treasurer, the secretary all have much more complicated jobs than I do. I just help them out, make sure everything's going okay.
Okay. Do you have another job in addition to serving the school?
I do. I help run a nonprofit that works with small businesses to help make small businesses stronger.
Would you care to say the name of it? So
Sure, it's
people
called
can hear it?
Oakland Thrive.
Oakland Thrive?
Mhm.
Okay, so you should donate to that. Yeah, last question. Do you prefer making snowmen or snow angels?
Ooh, good question. I think angels.
Snow angels?
Yeah, snow angels.
I like snowmen.
You do? Yeah. What do you like to use for the eyes and the nose and stuff?
So 1 year we didn't have any buttons, so we used gummy bears.
Ooh. Did they get eaten by the animals outside?
No, they melted.
Ah, okay. Cool.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Abdullah, and today I'm going to be interviewing
Amy Grismkowski.
And first of all, I want to thank her for all the work she does for our school. You should thank her too. And the first question I'm going to ask is, what do you do on the board?
Well, Abdullah, I am the board treasurer, which means that I am responsible for the governance of the financials of Huron Valley Schools.
Okay. What is your connection to the Huron Valley community?
Well, I've lived in Huron Valley for 25 plus years, and all 4 of my children have gone to Huron Valley Schools, as well as I was a PTA president at Country Oaks. I helped pass the bond and sinking fund in 2019, and then in 2022 I was appointed to the Board of Education.
Wow, that's a lot.
Well, some days.
Okay. We already asked that question. Do you have another job in addition to serving here?
Yeah, I do. I am the deputy director of an organization called Western Oakland Transportation Authority, and we provide transportation for adults with disabilities and senior adults.
Okay. Last question. If you were given the chance, would you take a snow angel or snowman? And if it's not on there, you can just say it.
Would I rather make a snow angel or a snowman? That's easy. Snow angel.
Well, last person said snow angel too.
Really?
Yeah, and I like snowman.
Oh, okay. Well, we can be different, but we still have the same initials.
Here's Sebastian with an update on the Kids Heart Challenge.
Hello, Heart Heroes at Kurtz. I'm Sebastian. I am back promoting the Kids Heart Challenge. Have you met Heart Hero Finn? He is on a mission to help us all kids with special hearts, like him. Completing Finn's mission will teach you and your family's life-saving skills, like hands-only CPR. If you complete all the mission, you'll earn Finn's Lifesavers Award. Visit our website to get started today. This just in. Here is our first kid update. As of January 18th, we have 49 students registered. 12 kids completed Finn's mission. Altogether, Kurt's kids have raised $3,909. Awesome work so far. Our goal is $10,000. Great start Kurtz Elementary. Please register today to be a Heart Hero.
There are no special reminders this week. Make sure you get dressed for the weather.
Keep working hard in class, Kurtz kids.
Have a great week, Kurtz Cougars! For watching. Do you have any questions for us?
Board members? Yes, Ms. Cotter.
Yes, I sometimes call myself the board historian, but I want you to know, your current students, that Kurtz Elementary, years ago when we first got video equipment, I recall Kurtz doing the morning news every day. So I'm so glad that you're continuing that program you kids did a wonderful job. I do have one question. Do you have a prompter, or how can you read something and be so natural on the screen?
Yes.
One of our fellow students and our teacher writes a script, and that is on Google Drives, and it's right in front of the camera so they can see it and they can still look at the camera.
That's your secret. Well, you did a wonderful job.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, Jacob.
I just want to say I'm truly impressed with your guys' poise up here at the podium. I know it can be intimidating. I've been intimidated within this room several times. So you guys are really off to a great start.
Yes, Member Dodd.
I just want to add a little bit of, they run a really professional operation over there. You meet the whole crew when you go in. They make sure you're comfortable. They go over the questions with you beforehand. So it very much is a team thing. I could feel the whole team together, good creative brains, and an excellent educator staff helping to support this group of kids. They're great leaders in their school, and what a special opportunity it was to meet all of you, and I'm so impressed with what you're doing. Thank you.
I just wanted to double down on what you said, Mrs. Dodd. The reality is it wouldn't happen without the fifth grade teachers at Kurtz. We have a studio set up that Mrs. Spurlock and Mr. Phillips have been really working on. The kids work on it. They take a lot of time and energy and effort making it something special. And there is a request out to Mr. Tavernier for more equipment for that. You may want to give him some pressure. Guys, give him those eyes, you know. But thank you very much.
Any other comments? I just have one. It's to Oliver. Where's Oliver? You're in charge of the weather? Are you taking responsibility for the weather we're expecting tonight?
Yes.
I don't know. What do you predict for the weather to be tonight and tomorrow?
I predict that it might be a little snowy and rainy.
What should we do about that?
What? Yeah, let's close school.
Oh.
For the rest of the month.
Oh, for the rest of the month?
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute now. That's a giant step, isn't it? Huh? You
Yeah.
talk about pressure. There's pressure on Mr. Tavernier to provide more technology. Now you're providing pressure on Dr. Salah, not only to have a snow ice day for tomorrow, but for the entire month? I don't know. All right,
So-
well.
Tough negotiator.
You have something else to
Can
say,
we
Oliver?
please close school?
All right. Well, I really appreciate you being here, all of you. You did a great job interviewing two of our board members. It's obvious that you spend a lot of time. Very impressed with your personalities and your knowledge and your stage presence. All of you did a fine job, so thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
And you were so compelling this evening that we are going to have an ice day tomorrow.
What?
Nice job.
Nice job. Well done.
Oliver, you predicted the future.
That's pretty impressive. All right, next we have the Lakeland High School, I believe.
Yep, and we have some members of the team here. I'm going to invite Ms. Held, our principal from Lakeland High School. Welcome.
Good evening. First, I would like to thank the board members for all of their service and support that you give Huron Valley and especially Lakeland High School. And thank you for inviting us here tonight as well. So tonight I chose to spotlight the English department because they have been trailblazers in expanding the study of literacy beyond the walls of Lakeland High School and out into our community as a whole. Likewise, as a board, yearly, you see the English department through the lens of standardized testing. Well, tonight I wanted to make sure that you kind of saw it through a different lens. And although the data speaks volumes to the literacy development of our students, it doesn't show the day-to-day curriculum and teaching that sparks student engagement, student passion, and ultimately the student growth. So tonight I have Mr. Trice, Lakeland's English department head, as well as Kathleen Miska, and one of our seniors, Sophia Moyer, here to share. They're going to be able to provide some examples of all of these growth opportunities that the English department provides. However, they're also very humble people. So while their examples are going to focus specifically on the English department, the benefits of building student literacy spans into all subject areas in all disciplines. So I've seen this in science classrooms when I've gone and witnessed students do multimedia projects. I've personally participated in writing workshops with our history department. I have provided business students with feedback on the speeches that they have provided, and all of this wouldn't happen if they didn't have that core foundation of literacy. So I thank them tremendously. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Trice, and he's going to provide you with some examples.
Does this clicker actually click? All right. Well, good evening. Hey, look at that. All right. So I wanted to start off by, we're going to highlight some things that are happening in our classrooms and some of the extracurriculars that the English department is offering. And I want to start off by talking about AP Lang, which is the AP class that is offered to our juniors. And it is taught by Mr. Isaac Perry. Some of you, I'm sure, know him. Everybody in Milford knows Mr. Isaac Perry. And the thing he wanted to highlight was what he does. No, it's not doing anything. Can I go to the next slide? Okay, he does a project with source credibility and information synthesizing. So what he does is, in the second semester, he has them learning about how to evaluate sources of information for credibility and how to synthesize information from various credible sources into strong arguments with a crime scene investigation activity. Students form detective squads. We can go to the next slide. They examine physical evidence, read through transcripts of eyewitness testimony, and then use that information to draft an arrest warrant. All detective squads present their arrest warrants at the end of the week, and then we vote on which group presents the most convincing argument. And we've got one more, and this is from last year's activity of doing that. So they're up, they're moving around, you got the chalk outline on the floor, all the kinds of stuff that's fun, engaging, asks us to pull information from a variety of sources and test whether or not that information is actually good. Very, very important skills as we're going forward. The next two activities that I'm going to be passing things over to Sophia here because she's directly involved in them.
Hi, I'm Sophia. So this is my second year taking yearbook at Lakeland, and the class is taught by Mr. Head, and he's a great teacher. He's really interactive with the students. He just makes us laugh all the time. It's a great class, and this year is actually our 50th edition of our yearbook. This is our 49th. This is last year's yearbook. Our theme was like retro, I guess. But yeah, it's a really fun class, and you really get to like get in touch with your imagination and just like your creative side. 'Cause right off the bat, like in the beginning of the class, he just lets you play around with like whatever you want the layout to look like, and then we all just kind of agree on something. It's it's never he gives us the direction. We are one unit. He's not like necessarily, well, he's a teacher. He's a great teacher, but he's guiding us. He's not necessarily giving us orders, you know. Our next, can I go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Next slide, please. The next thing I'm going to talk about is journalism. So this is my first semester in journalism this year. And the class is taught by Miss Ailes, also a great teacher. She's another teacher that I look up to in the building. And we've wrapped up this semester by producing the second new edition, issue 1 of the Lakeland Talon. We work with Argus Press in Owasso to get our newspaper printed professionally. This newspaper has been the focus of the class for many weeks now. We did have to tackle a completely new and challenging interface, Adobe InDesign, to create the proofs for the Talon, which posed numerous challenges along the way. However, we're very excited to bring the Talon into the school and into the community. Thank you.
And as you can see from what we're passing out here, it's an actual physical newspaper. It looks like an actual newspaper. How beautiful is that? It's not a website. It's an actual physical newspaper. All right, so the next thing I wanted to highlight is Scribes. Scribes is Lakeland's yearly book of student writing, artwork, and photography, and it has been published at Lakeland for well over 40 years now. The top left cover that you see there is from 1982, and it is still going strong today. I personally still have the book. I had a few pieces published in when I graduated from Lakeland in 1993. The Creative Writing 1 and 2 class in the spring semester advertises the book to collect work from students throughout the school in all different classes, and then the volume is designed by students, published, and sold in May. If we can go to the next slide, we'll see some more recent editions of it as well. We've had books. I've been advising the book for about 15 or so years, maybe a little bit longer. It starts to get blurry after a while. And we've had editions go from 80 pages to 240 pages. And it's every year it's a different thing. The covers are created by the students. The 2023 one, very striking painting that a student had done of a bear. The class chooses what the cover is, and it's a beautiful thing. And we're always very excited to get that published. And it's a physical thing that somebody can take and say, I was published in this. We're very proud of that. I'm going to pass it over to Mrs. Miskin now.
And I'll be sharing with you about our AP Lit U of M Libraries field trip, which we've been doing since about 2010, with the exception of some of our COVID years. My AP Lit courses go to my personal Disneyland, the U of M graduate and undergraduate libraries, to conduct research on literary criticism on an author and text of their choosing they have read in preparation for our field trip. The library staff gives students guidance and instruction on how to conduct effective college-level research using their billion-dollar databases. We get to go in the stacks and actually explore and even check out some of these rare books that students can then take home while we work on their own research-informed literary criticism. This is an older picture. I think there's probably some staff members' children in this photo. I think Drew might be in there. But it's been a event that students come back and tell me after graduation often that this was an experience that gave them a leg up in college, that they went into college at any university knowing how to navigate these complex research systems, or at least having an idea of how to get started. So it's something that is a wonderful experience.
And finally, I'm going to talk about a couple of the extracurriculars that we offer with our English department. One of those is the Writing Club. And the Writing Club just presented to the PTSA recently, and they had a successful National Novel Writing Month where almost everyone who participated met their word count. National Novel Writing Month is a compete to complete kind of thing where students and adults set individual goals. In the month of November, I'm going to write something of this length. And many students will then create a piece that is longer than anything they've ever written before in that concentrated month. It's the idea of creating a deadline to actually get you engaged and involved. We've had National Novel Writing Month groups at Lakeland High School for over 15 years. I've run many of them. They have been taken over by the new Writing Club. Since our writing club includes not only LHS students, but also IA students. We often do First Chapter Fridays, where we peruse new books before the IA students arrive to the club. We are now transitioning into planning for a murder mystery fundraiser that will happen in the spring. Lots of planning and writing will go into this fundraiser. And we plan to not only open the fundraiser to the school, but also to the community at large. They're also looking forward to working with Beggy Hogaboom, as well as Libby, to coordinate locations with clues, a storyline, and much more, which should be very exciting, full of twists and turns. And finally, the debate club is transitioning into a learning period where club members will learn all of the basics of formal debate. Our ultimate goal is to work on attending competitions either by the end of this year or early next year, depending on when competitions take place. We will learn about how to construct and refute arguments, logical fallacies, and more. This is being run by Mr. Hull, Jeremy Hull, who is in the top left corner there, and Miss Ailes, who liked this picture the most of the options that she had, and she's the one towards the bottom there, smiling at the camera. They will also be working extensively with the students to not only prepare them for formalized debates, but also to give them the tips, tools, and tricks they'll need to succeed while thinking on their feet. And that is our presentation.
Any questions from the board? Any comments? Yes, Jacob?
Just, you guys are doing a tremendous job. I was up here taking notes as a new English teacher, and you really set the bar super high, so tremendous.
Thank you.
Yes, Laura?
I would just like an order form for future books. Your publication, I would love it. I mean, I think we receive every year a publication from Harbor High, and reading the students' pieces, whether it's poetry or short stories or whatever, is one of my favorite things. So when it comes to ordering time, laura.dodd@hvs.org.
I will make sure you're taken care of.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Can I just say, add my name to that list?
Yes.
Amy Grisomkowski at hvs.org. I also just want to say thank you. I have 2 students that have gone through Lakeland, and they are better writers because of the work that the teachers at Lakeland have done. Maybe kicking and screaming, but they are better writers because of the work that you have done. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you very much. It was
Appreciate
very informative, and obviously it's not the same old English class that many of us had an opportunity to attend. Very creative. I love the clubs. I love the participation. We know at the high school level and at all levels it's important for our students to be engaged, and you certainly walk that talk. And as Amy and Laura said, I think it would be wise if, I think all of us would be interested in your publication. So if you could send that maybe to Laura, and then Laura could send that to Laura, yeah, right, Heather. That's why you're vice president. You'd send it to Heather, and then she'll forward it on to all of us. So thank you again for
Absolutely,
everything.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Next, yes. Superintendent's communication. You've already communicated to Kurtz, and now they're going to take it back to their community and say, look how much power we have with the superintendent, how much influence they have. So with that, superintendent's communication.
Yeah, next, I'm scared to see what the next school presentation is going to ask for. We've opened the door, Pandora's box. Yeah, I've got a couple things this evening, actually, before I run through the specific board recognition month. I do want to take a moment and introduce a new administrator to the district, our Director of Technology, Scott Endicott. Scott is no stranger to the Huron Valley Schools. He's been involved with information technology for 25 years with a wide-ranging IT experience. Scott has worked in various IT roles within the Huron Valley Schools. He has a bachelor's degree from the University of Michigan Flint. He started his career as a network administrator for PC support. And I don't know exactly what that means, but he does, which is what's important. Technology services and support technician for HVS from 2009 to 2014, an application specialist for HVS from 2014 to 2018, application and security engineer for HVS from 2018 to 2019, and he left us for a couple of years to gain some additional experiences, partially in in an administrative capacity with Genesee County, working with courts and the judicial system. And so it's my honor and pleasure this evening to introduce Scott Endicott as our new Director of Technology. Let's give Scott a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank
Scott?
you very much. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I don't have a long, cool presentation, and it's kind of unfair to follow the Kurtz team and the Lakeland team. They were great. I just want to say thank you for giving me this opportunity. I call this place home for 12 and a half years, and I have a lot to show for it. I have a wonderful family, kids, because of the district. And so I have a vested interest in the district succeeding. And there's no better feeling than coming back home. So thank you, everybody, and I'm really, really excited to be here.
Thank you very much, Scott. We feel the same thing about Huron Valley, and we appreciate and respect you, and you made a wise choice to return.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Congratulations once again. So this evening I have the privilege of sharing a couple of thoughts with the listening audience, with those who are at home regarding our school board, as January is School Board Appreciation Month. I don't usually do this, but I took a few minutes to actually write down my thoughts because I wanted to make sure that I captured everything that I wanted to share this evening. So I'm just going to take a couple minutes and read through what I've prepared here. So on behalf of all Huron Valley Schools students and staff, I would like to take a moment to thank our Board of Education as we celebrate Board Appreciation Month. I want to express my deepest gratitude for your dedicated service to the children of the Huron Valley schools and the community that we serve. Your tireless efforts and commitment to ensuring quality education for our students have not gone unnoticed. The recent adoption of the strategic plan and the bond initiative are continued evidence of your focus upon providing an excellent educational experience for our students. There is never a conversation or a decision that gets made without always having students at the center of that decision. And I can't underscore that enough for the folks who are listening to this, because there isn't a decision that gets made or discussed where how does this impact our student body population? That question always gets raised by our board. The impact of your work is far-reaching, contributing to the growth and development of countless individuals who go through our school system and shape the future of our society, not just our community, but our society. Serving on a board takes countless hours away from family and friends. I can't underscore that enough. I don't think people fully realize the amount of time that this board takes. These are not paid positions, yet you dedicate as many as 20 hours or more a week, reading materials, reviewing budgets, considering policy revisions, and ensuring that the Huron Valley Schools culture remains a healthy focal point for our schools. We are fortunate to have you as leaders that are shaping the educational landscape of our community. Thank you for all that you do. I truly, truly appreciate it. As has been sort of a custom, or within the Huron Valley Schools, many of our students have submitted cards to you, and I think you will enjoy those cards. And there's a little bit of HVS swag in a bag for you as well. And so we, on behalf of the entire student body population and our staff, thank you for everything that you do, and I hope you enjoy the cards and the swag. Thank you. That concludes my comments, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, I'd like to turn it over to our chair of our Teaching and Learning Technology group to introduce student leadership.
All right, good evening. I'm going to introduce Priyanka. She is our Milford High School representative, leadership representative, and she comes to all of our TLT meetings and gives a lot of great feedback, and we all appreciate what our student leaders have to say, because they They're the reason we're here. So I'll let her take it away.
Hello, I'm Priyanka Patel, and as you said, I am Milford High School Student Council President, and I'm just going to share what Milford's been up to for the last few months. So starting in the beginning of December, a few Milford High School students are involved in DECA, which is a business competition that includes role plays and writtens. So the role play section went to districts that month, and out of 50 students, 70 students got medals from 3 different sections, and 44 students are advancing to states, which is in March. Also in December, our leadership class hosted our annual Milford Miracles fundraiser, which is where all classes raise money, which goes towards the leadership class being able to go out for a day during school and buy presents from lists from unnamed families within HVS that aren't able to provide their own children with Christmas presents. We also get presents for the entire family. We are able to wrap them ourselves and personally deliver them to their house or the school, whichever they decide that they need. Also, student council for our senior service project, we all made holiday cards and took a day where we were able to deliver them personally to retirement homes within Milford's community, which was very exciting to do. Also, leadership, every year we host our winter prep assembly right before break, and our unified basketball team was able to have their first debut in front of all of the students, and they have 3 games that are coming up in the following months against other unified basketball teams. In January, the National Honor Society hosted a blanket drive where all students were just able to donate gently used blankets, and the NHS team drove them out to the Hope Shelter and even animal shelters for people that are in need of blankets. And ending, our Senior Student Council hosted our last fundraiser, which was midterm baskets, where we were able to put little snacks and even notes from parents and give them to the students right before midterms, even though they're kind of spread out due to snow days. We got that all figured out, but that is our last fundraiser before we start planning for prom, which is coming up soon. So a lot of exciting things this semester and a lot more to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, association communication.
Good evening. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday season, Happy New Year, and enjoyed our extra bonus days last week due to the cold and icy roads. We've briefly extended, and maybe even more extended, semester 1. However, soon it will be semester 2 and heading into the second half of the year. It always amazes me how each school day feels so long, but the weeks seem to fly by, especially once we return from winter break. As we've said, January is School Board Recognition Month. I want to take today to recognize our Board of Education members. Through my discussions with other association presidents and through the media, I know full well how fortunate we are in Huron Valley to have such a high-functioning school board who is student-centered. By listening to all of you at our board meetings, it is clear how deeply you care for not only our schools, but our community as a whole. I especially appreciate how open you are to hearing directly from me and from our educators. I always look forward to the meetings I have with Mr. Wiseman and Ms. Dodd. Our conversations are focused on a shared interest of attracting and retaining our educators and strengthening our district. Our Vibe in the Valley meetings continue to be a time where our educators from each building can come together twice a year. That'd be a lot of meetings for us. Twice a year with Dr. Salah and 3 of our board members. Within these meetings, we share positive moments, dig deep into discussions about our concerns, and begin to brainstorm solutions. Although we do not always see eye to eye on every topic, I appreciate that you are open to the conversation. Favorable changes for our educators and students have come out of these meetings because you are willing to truly listen, engage in dialogue, and take action. Our strength as a district comes from our commitment to collaboration as a board, administration, and association. I am grateful I work in a district that is dedicated to this collaboration and has a board of education who sees the value of all of us working together. The staff and students and families of Huron Valley benefit from all of your hard work, commitment, and dedication. Thank you for the time you put in each day to attend meetings, read a board packet, answer so many emails, and listen to concerns. I recognize all of the time it takes to operate as an exceptional board, and I appreciate that it is so important to all of you, as we are the ones who benefit from your time, energy, and effort. So thank you again for all that you do, and I look forward to many more years of all of us working together.
So I had one piece of mail that I turned over to Mr. Van Gotham, and just the emails that you had mentioned that we received, no additional other than that.
On March 11th, and I received 8 correspondence along with associated replies as it relates to our election scheduled later in the year. So thank you very much for that. Treasurer's report.
Just wanted to bring to our listening audience attention, the FAQ regarding our strategic plan has been updated with additional information regarding the cost of the special election. If you have questions regarding that, that is really good information. It is detailed, and it does a great job of explaining the cost. So if you have questions, please refer to that document on our website, hvs.org. Thank you.
I think it's also important to know, and I appreciate that you brought that up, that that is a document that continues to be updated as questions are raised by the community when we receive them, as board members or administration might receive them, or we receive them via the community. Dr. Salah and his team updates them. So please continue to take a look at them, because just recently we updated them, I believe, with 4 or 5 FAQs on Friday, and usually take a look at them at least once a week, because they are being updated as further questions are brought forth. So thank you very much for that information, Treasurer Grisomkowski. Next, we have reports from board committees. I'm going to start off with our executive committee. Our executive committee met on January 16, 2024 at 12:30 at the Huron Valley Administration Building. The meeting was called to order at 12:32. Present were myself, Member Pastana, Member Dodd, Dr. Salah, Mr. Van Gothen, Ms. Rothler, Ms. Wenger, and Ms. Cadell. Public comments, community member Dan Gilmer shared his thoughts regarding the special election. During this meeting, we discussed tonight's board meeting agenda. We also discussed school safety and security, which is an agenda item on all of our subcommittees. Barb Rothler highlighted the upcoming January 29, 2024 Academic and Instruction AIM meeting, where Recon Management Group will share results from the Security Assessment Report in anticipation of the upcoming Recon Management visit in the spring of 2024. The report provides a list of strategies, changes, and recommendations to consider in an ongoing effort to have a comprehensive safety plan within our district. Threat assessments will be discussed with administration at the AIM meeting as well. The group will go over the district's threat assessment protocols that are in place, including various items to ensure safe environment for all of our students. The community was invited to the February 13th Safety Committee meeting that's held quarterly, where the group will discuss with the community current safety measures happening nationwide and ask for feedback from our committee members. Neola 4000 administrative guidelines were discussed and were presented to us for our review regarding support staff in reference to the current board policies, and invited the committee to review and ask any questions. The board will be notified in board notes once the administrative guidelines have been published on our website. Special updates as it relates to policy. The committee had a second reading of the updates to Board Policy 0122, 1420, 3142, and 3220. These updates will be brought to the board for first read under new business at the January 22nd, tonight's board meeting. Board of Education governance standards. I shared with the committee the Michigan Board of Education governance standards that were previously discussed by prior board members way back in 2017. It was discussed that these governance standards could provide a framework for operating procedures, values, and norms for the board. The committee will discuss again at our next meeting, which is February 16th. I'm not sure if that is our next meeting. We might have one earlier than that. Bond application, Dr. Slash shared the timeline and benchmarks for the bond application for placing the bond proposal on the ballot. Jeffrey Van Gothen shared the preliminary qualification bond application that the board will be asked to approve at tonight's meeting. Once the application is approved, it will be submitted to State Treasury in accordance with the timelines established by the state. Under other, Mr. Van Gothen shared the committee a request to purchase a new dump truck, which is utilized to provide maintenance throughout the district. This will be a replacement for a 16-year-old truck that is at the end of its life. This will be on the agenda under new business at tonight's meeting. Jeffrey Van Gothen also discussed updates to various board policies. The board's name presented in the bylaws differ from that presented by the IRS, and various changes will be made in accordance with the law, not only with that, but our purchasing policies. Our adjournment occurred at 3:10, and as Vice President Dodd pointed out, our next meeting truly is February 16th at 12, or no, it's at 1 o'clock. At 1 o'clock. So, thank you very much. TLT Committee.
TLT committee met on January 9th in Administration Building. The meeting was called to order at 4:35. Present were myself, Mr. Dimick, Ms. Cotter, Mr. DeVernier, Dr. Salah, Ms. Thompson, Ms. Bjorkman, Ms. McDonald, Ms. Horwitz, and Priyanka Patel. There was no public comment. Regular agenda items. Mrs. McDonald provided an update for the English Language Learner Program. HVS has made progress with the ELL program with improved newcomer support, and we are seeing positive outcomes as evidenced by exit rates and fewer students eligible for the summer school programs. The focus for 23-24 has been to have a system of support processes in place and in written form, and to continue strengthening family and school partnerships. We discussed Board Policy 5460, graduation requirement. Mr. Tavernier provided a copy of the proposed changes to Board Policy 5460 related to the personal finance graduation requirement. There will be a presentation of the proposed change for the board tonight as new business. Student leadership. Priyanka updated us with most of the events that she talked about tonight. She talked about Oscar night was being organized for seniors to raise money for prom, and we peppered her with questions about receiving her college acceptance letters. To come, to be determined where she's going. So I'm sure it'll be a great spot. Safety and security updates. Mr. Tavernier shared that administration will be dedicating this month's leadership team meeting to school safety and security with a focus on our threat assessment protocols and procedures. Under other, Dr. Slad discussed the upcoming bond proposal and process for bringing items to the board for the proposed ballot proposal scheduled for May 7th. Mr. Tavernier shared that Scott Endicott has accepted the position of Director of Technology. And you heard, Scott's not new to HVS, and we're happy to have him back. And then we had a reinstatement committee established to listen to a hearing for student discipline. And we adjourned at 5:23. Our next meeting is February 6th at 4:30.
Thank you very much. Finance and Operations?
Yes, the Finance and Operations met Wednesday, January 17th at 9:04 at the admin building. Present were Mr. Wiseman, myself, Ms. Cotter, Dr. Salah, Mr. Van Gotham, Mr. Reeby, Ms. Kerrigan, Ms. Riskin, Ms. Timberlake from Clark, Mr. Maxwell from Clark, and Mr. Weinrock from TMP. We had public comment. Mr. Gilmer expressed his gratitude for the district continually allowing the public to learn and participate. He also acknowledged the one-year anniversary of the MSU shootings on February 13th and suggested that we have a green out in honor of MSU. We reviewed the minutes from our previous meeting, and those minutes are included in the board notes. We did not have any consent agenda items. We do have some unfinished business. Our preliminary qualification bond application was reviewed. We posed questions and discussed the PQ bond application, which includes the ballot language, as well as timelines and very general overview of each school's remodeling and new building. This is the next step in the process of placing a bond proposal on the ballot. Administration is asking the board to approve the PQ bond application at this evening's meeting. New business. The approval of the M&O truck purchase. The committee reviewed the purchase of a new 2024 GMC 3500 4x4 dump truck in the amount of $81,430 from LaFontaine Buick GMC, plus $20,334.19 from Harold's Frame Shop, for a total of over $101,000. This vehicle will be funded from the general fund. Administration will seek approval at the February 5th, 2024 board meeting. Board Policy 0111 and 6320 have some minor updates. The committee reviewed the board policy to reflect the district's name as determined by the IRS, and Board Policy 6320 to reflect the buyer's best judgment purchasing thresholds as set by the Michigan Department of Education. Administration will seek approval on February 5th, 2024 at the board meeting. Safety and security updates. Updates given in the bid pack summary included hardware installation for this summer. Recon management will work with TMP on our bond program so that all safety and security considerations are in line. Recon management will be at the next AIM meeting discussion, threat assessment, and all documentation forms. And as part of our strategic plan, the next safety and security meeting is scheduled for February 13th. In addition, we also had a construction update from our construction company. Bid packs 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. We were provided with information regarding their contingency and timelines. It is very exciting, by the way, to see the new opening of our entrance for Milford High School. It looks fantastic, but more than that, it is a safe and secure entryway. And we also discussed the Duck Lake abatement, which was completed on Friday, January 19th. We reviewed the general fund budget to actual report as of November 30th, and there were no real concerns. We talked about the February 12th special Board of Education meeting, which will be held on February 12th at the Administration Building at 4:30. The committee also held a roundtable to answer any questions regarding the 2024 bond. Future items for our discussion will be the Oxbow Elementary School traffic signal upgrade bid, which will be brought to the board February 5th and 12th at that board meeting, that special board meeting, for review and approval alongside bid pack 10. The CRG will bring the critical incident mapping proofs to us to review, and will be coming to a future Finance and Operations Committee meeting to explain how to read and best utilize this. Critical incident mapping, if you're not aware of what this is they will be looking at all of our schools, and they will be mapping our schools in such a way that it is easy for our law enforcement and our fire departments to have access should there be a situation that requires their presence. Our meeting adjourned at 10:17 a.m. Our next meeting is slated for January 31st at 8 a.m., which is a week from Wednesday.
And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Communications, marketing, and legislation.
Yes, our last meeting was January 9th at the Administration Building. Meeting was called to order at 3:03 p.m. Members present were myself, Amy Grisomkowski, Lindsay Cotter, Barb Rothler, Paul Salah, and Kim Willis. We did not have public comment. In our regular agenda, top of the agenda was the 2024 bond. The committee discussed what the district and the Board of Education's role will be in regards to the upcoming bond initiative. Next, we talked about kindergarten and junior kindergarten orientation. Communications informed the committee that JK and kindergarten orientation will be Thursday, March 14th at 6 p.m. Preparations are underway and more information will be out to families soon. The committee suggested having information about upcoming bond to share at orientation. Committee discussed other ways on how to get the word out about junior kindergarten programs to all families in the district. And the committee also discussed other organizations who could help share kindergarten and junior kindergarten information, including community sharing, food pantries, and new resident packets. C, as with all other committees, we had our safety and security discussion. Ms. Rothler gave an update on when recon management will be back in the district, which is spring of '24. Committee discussed having recon rep follow up with building admin instead of Barb and Paul just sharing notes. D, legislative communication. I shared that I'm going to head to DC this Saturday to share our district and Oakland County's priorities with our federal lawmakers, and I'll bring my findings back to the communications marketing meeting and the general meeting at our next full board meeting. We did not have any others, and we adjourned the meeting at 3:42 p.m. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, February 6th at 2:30 p.m. at the Administration Building.
Thank you very much. Next is public comments. As I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, this is a section as it relates to public comments on agenda items and/or non-agenda items if we do not have many agenda items that are subject to public comments. At the present time, I only have one comment. Is there any more? Does anybody else have any comments? All right, at this point in time, I'd like to recognize Mr. Gilmer, Dan Gilmer. This is a time that provided to us for us to listen to you. It's not a time for communication or conversation, but you have 3 minutes, and if you could state your name again, address, and the district that you reside in.
Thank you. Dan Gilmer, Huron Valley School District, 4577 Driftwood, Commerce Township, Michigan. So short today. As well, I went to my first subcommittee meetings this week. I encourage the rest of the community to do the same. As we dive deeper, they become the ones where a lot more communication and discussions and things occur. And I learned a lot. And I also had the opportunity to ask questions and hopefully provide some additional community feedback from an outside perspective. And I know it was respectful and it was received, and we have a great relationship. Sorry. The one question I would ask in a general sense that I really haven't discussed yet, and I've asked a lot of questions and I've gotten a lot of feedback, at some point when it's appropriate, 10-year versus 20-year bonds. We were 10 years in 2019, and this time would be 20, and I know other districts are going 30. So maybe a frequently asked question if it's not already there as well. I also have had the opportunity to see a couple of our township clerks, and from a community standpoint, they are under a lot this year. All of your township clerks have to put on 4 elections if you're in the Huron Valley School District, and with new election laws, they have to be open 9 days before each one that they've never dealt with before. So as we have students here, one thing that occurred from Mr. Howe many years ago in 2019, and I'm sure continued before and after, he encouraged our students to go. Our government students, our people at 16 years old today, you can work that election, you're off school that day, what a great way to tie the community together and help solve an issue that they have and learn. And we all know it's our seniors that are our most prevalent people. Man, just breaking down tables for them and putting away chairs, but be there proud for the Huron Valley Bond. As a student there, I think that means a lot. So I would encourage that. And now it locked, so I think the final thing, I want to take a moment and recognize Shannon Gorman. She has no idea I'm doing this. Shannon Gorman, for me, is a gymnastics coach, a mentor, a great person. She brought 2 state meets to Lakeland High School in a couple of past years, recent years. My daughter was on the team. My daughter had never been judged in gymnastics before the 9th grade. And I don't think that happens a lot anymore. And they welcomed her to the team. The girls were great. It was probably one of the best things socially she had. It involves 3 and also all four of our high schools. So it's neat to see. And the moment she fell at her first day on the beam, and all the girls come in behind, it was teamwork.
It's nice
And
to
she
hear.
knew those girls she could count on. Thank you.
Thank you very
Shannon
much,
Gorman.
Mr. Gilmer. Appreciate it. Next on the agenda is consent agenda. We have 3 exhibits, A1 through A3. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a second? Okay.
I'll support that one.
Motion was made by Member Dimick, seconded by Member Cotter. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Dimick.
I'm a yes.
Ms. Cotter.
Yes?
I am a yes. Ms. Dodd.
Yes.
Ms. Grzymkowski.
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next, unfinished business, Exhibit B. This was presented to the board. Early literacy resource purchase. Dr. Salah.
Thank you, and I would invite Mr. Tavernier to take this agenda item.
Yeah, so this item we brought to the board under new business at the December 18th meeting, so tonight it appears under unfinished business. But before we ask for a motion this evening, I'd like to invite Mr. Lindberg, along with some members from our Teaching, Learning, and Technology department, to give a little bit of overview on some of the work that we've been doing within early literacy. So, Mr. Lindberg.
Thank you, John. Do I only have 3 minutes? I actually kind of like that. So we wanted to follow up with you about elementary literacy, and it's interesting just because of the Lakeland High School literacy and English department presentation earlier. You heard them referencing literacy throughout that, and so this kind of plays nicely tonight, looking at the elementary literacy and understanding that when we talk about literacy, we look at it through a JK-12 lens. And so what we have up on the screen here is an example of one of our Gantt charts. And what you can see here is all the curriculum work that we're doing from JK-12 in English language arts and literacy. And you can see the 23-24 school year is highlighted there. You see the different phases of our curriculum planning that we put in. But we wanted you to see just the vast scope of this and how much comes into play just for literacy itself. But the fact that our focus this year, really since last November, November of 2022, we've really had a big focus on elementary literacy, and as a district really put a lot of time and energy into it. And so when you look at kindergarten through 5th grade here, and you see the amount of work that we've done this year alone and what we'll continue to do for the rest of the year, I want you to understand the vastness of each of these topics here. I mean, we're incorporating not only our teaching, learning, and technology department, but also our EIS coaches at the elementary level, also teachers from around the district who have really played a big part in this. And so it's really important when you look at that and you recognize that there's a lot of information on there, but the amount of people that are involved in that and the amount of work that's gone on behind the scenes with that is really vital. So our process that we've talked about up in front of you guys before is the first step here is we create a vision for our literacy, and we'll see that shortly. We'll be talking about that, our literacy vision for our district. But then we also, step 2, we develop, and this is where we're setting goals, we're looking at best practices, we're working with other teachers and EIS coaches to develop possible resources that we're going to utilize. And then finally, step 3 here, which is where we're at, and you see the star next to it. This is where we're piloting right now, and so you're going to hear a lot about UFly tonight. You're going to hear about morpheme magic. You're going to hear about spelography. These are all things that we're piloting and field testing right now, and leads to eventually our adoption phase and where we'll go as a district. And so just want to provide you a little overview, but then Kristen Chastain and Kathleen Miska and Jennifer Bjorkman will go into a little bit more detail.
So as we set out on this work that Marty laid out for you in those opening slides, we consulted, of course, a variety of resources to help guide our work and to shape the direction that we would head in for our vision collaboratively as a large committee. Of course, our first step was to look at our Michigan State standards, and particularly our standards for reading and those foundational skills that cover things like print concepts, phonological awareness, phonics and word recognition, as well as fluency. These, of course, as you know, are the non-negotiables. This is what the state hands down to us and says these are the must-dos for our students. These then, of course, are the vital building blocks of what create a good curriculum and a good vision for where we head with our students in terms of literacy, and in this case, particularly the reading strands. But those, of course, are from a student-centered lens. We also looked at the essential instructional practices for literacy, which are more about what teachers need to do with students in order to reach those standards-based objectives. For example, focusing on explicit instruction in letter-sound relationships. Explicit teaching about syllabication and how to break longer words into smaller pieces and chunks, and how teachers actually go through the work of teaching students how to do these complicated tasks. And of course, over the last several years, there's been an elevated interest in understanding better the science of reading and what it takes to create a highly functional, skilled reader. And this science has, of course, evolved as science does over decades, but there's been an increased focus on the science of reading over the last several years, in particular, evolving from what you see in this graphic represented as a simple view of reading, which does acknowledge that there are lots of things that come into making a reader, not just decoding text, but language comprehension as well, that then leads to reading comprehension. However, we're understanding that these two chunks are actually a lot more nuanced than that, and even more nuanced than the Scarborough's rope graphic that you see here that breaks decoding down into decoding, phonological awareness, which is in itself a few other strands thinking about letter-sound relationships, as well as syllabication, as well as building those blends of sounds together, and sight-based recognition of words on that decoding end, and in the language comprehension end, thinking about vocabulary, background knowledge, literacy knowledge, and verbal reasoning. What we're even beyond this understanding, too, is that there's kind of a bond that holds these massive strands of the rope together, that there's some bridging activities that students need explicit instruction in order to actually build functional skills, that they need morphological understanding, they need cultural knowledge that helps them understand how references work within kind of cultural capital. They need an understanding of how figurative language and abstract language works. If we were to suggest to a student that we've heard the siren song of a snow day, for example, there's a lot of layers of understanding that go into not just the decoding, but the knowledge of what that really means and says to us. It's not a police car down the road, but rather a tempting concept, yes? So as we better unpacked and understood a lot of the recent research around the science of reading, we recognized that we needed to create for ourselves in Huron Valley a literacy vision. And we built this in collaboration between TLT and our EIS literacy coaches. that breaks down all of these aspects of development into our kind of focal point. And of course, you can read this, but I want to highlight a couple of pieces here that our goal is that all Huron Valley students become passionate and proficient readers, that our standards and our essential literacy practices are the core of that work, and that we put those things into action through evidence-based curriculum and assessments, and that students are working in all strands of the reading rope and developing through explicit instruction those highly developed skills, and that these skills are integrated into all of our content areas, as was elevated by Ms. Held with the Lakeland presentation earlier. We know that students need a wide variety of reading experiences, not just within their ELA chunk, but within their other content areas, and an access to a diverse array of reading materials, which of course is also part of the reason we're here to talk to you about decodables as one of those pieces of reading material. But that literacy is the core of everything that we do in every classroom every day. And so from this vision then, we worked with our committees to start to develop our next steps for enacting this vision, and Kristen's going to share a little bit about that with you.
So, all right, now with our literacy vision helping to guide our work, 2 committees were developed last spring. The Phonics Committee was composed of kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade teachers, 3 literacy coaches, and members of the Teaching and Learning Department. All 8 elementary buildings were represented with the purpose of reviewing and evaluating rubrics using a standardized, or evaluating resources using a standardized rubric. Ultimately, the committee selected a resource called UFly Foundations. The Phonics Committee had an advantage selecting a resource for field tests because many teachers had already been exploring UFly under the guidance of their literacy coaches. As a field test, we were able to offer participation to any teacher interested, and most K-2 teachers joined the field test and were provided training by their building literacy coach at the beginning of this school year. Now, all 3-5 teachers were also offered the same training and support, and many took the opportunity to use UFly as a resource to meet student needs. The 3-5 Word Study Committee was also composed of 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers, 2 literacy coaches, and members from the Teaching and Learning Department. Again, all 8 elementary buildings had representation on this committee. We also met in the spring to work through the resource selection process and decided to pilot 2 different word study resources. The pilot group just wrapped up their first 10-week pilot using a resource called Morpheme Magic and received training at the beginning of this month in preparation for their second 10-week pilot of a resource called Spellography. Feedback has been collected for both the phonics field test and each word study pilot, and in the spring, each committee will reconvene for collective review and help determine next steps. Since UFly Foundations is in the field test phase, I'd love to share a little bit more about this resource. Developed by the University of Florida Literacy Institute, UFly is an explicit and systematic phonics program that teaches students the foundational skills needed for proficient reading. It follows an explicit scope and sequence designed to ensure students systematically acquire each skill needed to learn and apply each skill with automaticity and confidence. The UFly program is designed to be used for core instruction or for intervention with students in any grade. UFly Foundations is an educative resource. Simply using the resource will add to the teacher professional knowledge and skills in the following areas: the process of reading acquisition, key linguistic elements necessary for reading, and evidence-based instructional methods that promote reading proficiency. Additionally, the following benefits have been shared through feedback from our teachers. UFly is responsive. There's a good balance of structure and support for meeting diverse student needs. UFly is daily practice with detailed lesson plans and weekly progress monitoring embedded. There's lots of practice, not just practice for new concepts, but reviewing concepts constantly. There are an abundance of resources embedded within the program, slide decks to help with instruction, and a shared drive with ready-to-print materials. UFly is manageable. Lessons are split over 2 30-minute sessions, and materials are manageable. Students work with manipulatives in practice, and UFly provides decodable passages that align with each lesson. But there is a need for additional practice with text. So I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer Bjorkman. She's going to talk a little bit more about that need for decodable passages and text.
Well, as Kristen said, in the UFly resource, the teachers in the classroom do have access to decodable text, decodable passages that the students read in class. And so I just wanted to share a little bit with you more about what a decodable text is. And we'll show a couple examples in just a minute. But it's really, these texts are focused on a specific letter sound correspondence, and it'll help promote fluency with students and being able to use those letters and sounds appropriately. It's aligned to the scope and sequence of the phonics program, and it builds student success. They are practicing what they're learning, and they're becoming more fluent with the work that they're doing. And then the decodable texts that we're interested are presented in a book format, so it's rather than the paragraph structure that's in the UFly program. So here's an example of what a decodable text looks like. This is focusing, this book, Cam the Cat, is focusing on the K sound, and you can see that is represented in the text. You can also see the beautiful pictures and the high interest that these books provide. And then here is another example. We're looking at the long E sound made with either a single E like in we or an EE as in the word see. So you can see there's great topics for students to be engaged in, to learn new content from, and also just interesting and engaging for our students. So where do we use decodable text? We use them obviously in the classroom instruction. We also use them in intervention, and then also provide them for at-home take-home books. So the set that we are asking for purchase from approval from the board is for our intervention students. We have worked with our literacy coaches, and they have determined that the benchmark readers are something that would benefit our intervention program. We do also know that our classroom teachers would benefit from additional text and decodable text, and a committee will be meeting to determine what their recommendation will be. So today we are just looking at the text sets that we are interested in for our students for intervention, which we have showed examples of.
Thank you very much for the explanation. Before we go into the discussion, do I have a motion to approve the purchase of the supplemental material?
I make the motion that we approve the.
Do I have a second? Okay. Motion made by Member Grzymkowski, seconded by Member Pestana. Open it up to discussion or comments as it relates to the purchase or to the presentation. Amy?
So I'm very excited to see phonics, science of reading, decodable text. You guys are speaking my love language. As a parent of someone with dyslexia, this is what she needed, 8, 9 years ago. So right now we are looking at K1 books, correct, for decodable text. Do we have plans for the 2 to 5? And because obviously decodable text, what I have read, because I read a lot about this, just makes it, you want to read more. It gives you more insight. It's more, you're not just guessing from a picture of what's happening. Do we anticipate higher grade levels, utilizing some of this decodable text? And then the decodable text that's available to teachers, will that be in the form of sorry, my children laugh at me, I call it a Google book, but a Chromebook. Will it be on a Chromebook? Will it be something on paper? How does that work with our younger students and our older students? I didn't make, not a hard question.
No, we were just determining who's. So first, absolutely, we are looking at sets that go beyond the K1 level. Certainly, as we get higher up into grades 3, 4, and 5, by then, especially with the solid foundation of the UFly phonics program behind it, students should have less need for decodable texts that are so rigidly focused around smaller sets
Yes.
of sounds, but those decodables would also certainly be available, especially in this purchase, for those students who might need that still, for a lot of reasons, in intervention or in small group work in their classrooms with their teachers as well.
Yes, I would agree. I would say, our hope is that by 3rd through 5th grade, the decodable book texts are not something our students would need because they have mastered those skills. But we do know some students still need that additional support, and we will provide that as needed. And I should mention that these books, the purchase will be from our 35A grant, early literacy grant from the state of Michigan as well.
Member Cotter?
Yes, we actually got to read some of those books at our TLT meeting, and our team or our committee highly recommend this purchase. It's going to be a wonderful intervention for the little ones.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Member Dodd?
Earlier, Mrs. Hollander talked about our participation in Vibe in the Valley, and one of the most memorable moments for me with Vibe in the Valley was with our elementary teachers, not this last one, but the one before. And one of our, I believe she's a first grade teacher, was very passionate about this to the point of tears, that she feels like this is what she needs in order to be successful, and she was really feeling sad about the kids that didn't have this. So I think it gives me a lot of hope. This, Lakeland also talked about this tonight, so we're bringing it all together, about how reading and the comprehension, all of that is really the heart of what we're doing. And when you get to those higher levels, if you don't have these skills, you're going to be lost. So our ability to invest in and purchase and really, really purposefully work with the little ones in whatever way works for them makes such a difference. So thanks for your work with this, and thanks to all the staff who served on the committees to look at this and work with it. It gives me a lot of hope, and I'm hopeful that next time we get together with our little Vibe in the Valley elementary group, they'll continue to see the investments that we're making in ensuring that every kid who comes to this district can be a good, strong reader.
Since you mentioned that, I just want to add a second, because I think sometimes we focus so much on early literacy that we do sometimes have a harder time meeting the needs of students who have gone beyond that K-3 space, but still need that support. Marty had shown you our Gantt chart of all of the myriad literacy and ELA work that we're doing over these next several years that we've been doing. And that is the core of the conversation that I'm having with every single group of those teachers, that we have students who have certain gaps, and we're better understanding through research and partnerships with the county and other groups, how we can make sure that all students get to where they need to be.
I just add one more thing too, sorry, since we're all jumping up here. And I know we mentioned it earlier, but just an acknowledgement again of our EIS coaches who have really led the work in the buildings and provided a lot of support for the teachers throughout, and have been big participants in this, along with the teacher leaders in our department as well. So just a thank you to them as well.
Any other comments? Well, I have a couple. So, Martin, you can stand up there if you want. Okay. But I applaud all of you as the leaders and the presenters tonight, but I certainly appreciate and recognize all the people that have made this a reality. I think it's extraordinarily important when we talk about the science of reading, that science of reading really is an integrated approach to reading. And it's not just the pre-K3, it's all the way through. And what we want to make certain is not only are our students proficient at reading, because obviously that's the foundation, but the love of reading. And the love of reading is so important as it relates to literacy. Since we are focusing on interventions and making certain that our kids, our younger ones, reach that baseline, I think it's doesn't surprise me at all that we have an integrated approach and we're really looking at it in a systematic fashion. And it's extraordinary to do it. At the same time, there's a sense of urgency regarding this. It's extraordinarily important, and you know that, to move ahead and move forward and be aggressive and do it in the right way so that one size doesn't fit all, but we have a variety of tools for our students. And it's not just, like I said, pre-K 3. It's beyond that for those that do not attain that level, but at the same time continue all the way through those people, those students that are not only proficient, but there's an integration of the love of reading for all of our students. So I applaud you, and I applaud the whole idea of science of reading, because it truly is a science. It's not something, and sometimes we take it for granted that all of a sudden children wake up and, oh my gosh, they can read now. How did that happen? Well, there is a science of reading, but at the same time, we need to make certain, and this is a big piece of my comments, is that we provide the wherewithal for our parents to support this. And the big thing is, don't forget the parents, because it's more than, okay, you got to read for 10 minutes at home. It's really providing the tools for our parents to support what's going on in the classroom and to do those types of things. So please, please don't forget the parents who are out there to support each and every one of you, and certainly their prized possession, which is their child, because it can be very frustrating to parents if their child isn't reading at grade level, because we know for a fact that that causes all kinds of other issues down the road. So once again, I applaud each of you, but I would also ask you to go back and thank everybody else that's involved in this. And like I said, one size doesn't fit all, and it truly is a science. That reading just doesn't happen by happenstance. And as I said, I applaud you, but I'm not surprised that you have an integrated approach to this, but at the same time, there's a sense of urgency to make certain that we recognize what's working, what's not working, and we're doing whatever we need to provide the tools. You also presented a great PowerPoint for us, and I would ask maybe Martin if you could pass that on to Dr. Salah or Ms. Cadell so that we could share that with the rest of the board. It wasn't in our packet, but it's important information for us, for me, as one board member to have in my possession. So thank you again. Next is Exhibit C. We didn't vote? Well, I was waiting for Laura to tell me that we hadn't voted. We have a motion. We have a second. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we're going to go ahead and take a vote. That's right.
Mrs. Grzymkowski.
Yes.
I am a yes. Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
Ms. Dodd.
Yes.
Mr. Dimick.
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman.
Of course, yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next, we'll go on to Exhibit C, which is the preliminary qualification of bond application. Exhibit C, as I mentioned before, Dr. Salah.
Thank you, Mr. President. So as is customary for our listening audience out there, when we bring something to the board, we typically bring it under two separate readings. We provide an introduction that provides the board with an opportunity to ask any questions that they might have over typically a 2-week time span, and then we bring that item back to the board and we ask for approval. So last month, on December 4th, 2023, we asked our Board of Education to consider the results of our Strategic Plan 2.0 committee and their recommendations, which included a zero tax rate increase bond proposal. The committee asked that the board consider a $361.3 million bond proposal to support future capital needs of the district, and on December 18th, 2023, this Board of Education unanimously supported both the strategic plan as well as a call for a request of a bond proposal. What that did was that triggered a series of steps and timelines that need to be met in order to place a ballot proposal on in front of the voters on May 7th, 2024. So as a result, preliminary qualifications of bond application was prepared for the Michigan Department of Treasury, which basically summarized all of the projects that we were considering doing. Now, I think it's important to note there's room for flexibility within that bond application. What you submit to Treasury is not cast in stone and absolutely has to be done. And in this last bond, the 2019 bond, we've made a number of changes as the landscape has changed around us. I think Oxford was a great example of that. We didn't have nearly as much invested in safety and security as we actually invested out of the 2019 bond. That changed our course of action. So on December 26th, 2023, the day after the Christmas holiday, a team representing the Huron Valley Schools, including myself, Mr. Van Gotham, our Assistant Superintendent of Business and Operations, along with Mr. Wiseman, met with the Department of Treasury to review our application and move the process forward. That meeting consisted of reviewing a draft of projects in detail and providing answers to any questions that Treasury had at the time. Treasury has requested, in accordance with applicable timelines, that the final application be prepared by the district and be submitted to Treasury on January 23rd, 2024. They're actually being quite flexible with us. They wanted it a little sooner, but they recognized that we didn't have a board meeting until January 22nd, which was good. And for a listening audience, the reason why that is good is because it gave us an opportunity to share that application with our board on January 12th, went home in a board packet, and since that time, we've had a number of questions from the board, all very good questions, and we were making some tweaks as late as this weekend, actually, based on some of those questions. So thank you to the board for being thoughtful and taking the time to review the 102-page application. So I think it's also important to note that this is a qualified bond, meaning the Michigan Department of Treasury backs, endorses, and approves the projects that we are submitting. They're basically saying, yes, these are reasonable projects, and as a result of that, should there be a default for any reason, they will back that investment that our taxpayers have put forward. So they look at our enrollment, they look at our facilities, building utilization. When we met with Treasury, they asked me to walk through the final recommendations of the strategic plan. They wanted to determine whether or not we were decreasing our footprint, which was part of those recommendations. So it's a very thoughtful and intensive process, and actually back in 2019, Treasury came to the district and walked our facilities. So they have a very good sense of what our buildings look like, what our utilization looks like. And I felt that it was a very positive conversation. We also reviewed ballot language. We've had good questions about ballot language. For example, one board member asked, why didn't the ballot language include the word demolition as a possibility? And that is really at the counsel of our attorneys, and it's it's the last sentence of the ballot language that covers that particular component. So they didn't suggest that we add that language, but we're covered. So it's important to lift that as well. So the application is now ready to be submitted to Treasury for acceptance. And this evening, Mr. President and board members, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the required certificate for final application, which includes the ballot language for submission to the state treasurer in accordance with the timelines established by the state. This is the next step in placing this is the next step in the process of placing a bond proposal on the ballot. And then in February, on February 5th, we will ask the board to adopt a resolution that is the final step in the process. So with that, we ask for approval this evening, Mr. President.
With everyone's permission, I'd like to go ahead and get a motion and then a second, and then we'll open up for discussion. Do I have a motion to accept the preliminary qualification for bonds? Member Cotter?
Yes, I'd like to make that motion that we accept the proposal as written.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
And, okay, motion made by Member Cotter, seconded by Member Grzynkowski. I'd like to open it up now for any comments or questions. Do I have any? Yes, Member Dodd?
Yes, I'd like to thank the team that's put all the work into doing this, and my board colleagues for really digging in and reading through this. This is some of the most important work we have to do. and really having a great team together to help us with this is important. The one thing that I want to point out that was pointed out to us in a meeting is, I'm just going to read a little bit from the actual proposal and what will appear on the ballot. And it says very clearly, remodeling, finishing, and refurnishing, and equipping and re-equipping school buildings and facilities for safety, security, and other purposes. And it's the thing that Treasury asked and that has been asked is you're not allowed to put anything on a bond that isn't a significant part of the money that we're investing. And so they say it has to be about 10%. And so going through the math in all of our proposals, we're more than doubling the investment that's required in order to have this language on the bond. We're looking at closer to 20% investment in safety and security, hardening our buildings, which I hate saying, but it's the reality, is making sure our facilities are as safe and secure as possible. When we attend our professional conferences, a good third of the folks presenting there are building companies and people presenting with new ways for us to really make sure that we're able to be safe and secure. And we want to make sure that we do everything possible that we can do as a school district and that I can do as a voter to support keeping the students safe when they're in the care of our schools at Huron Valley. So I just wanted to point that out. I think it's really important that we look not only at some of the flashy stuff that we get to do, like sports fields and supporting the arts and all that sort of stuff, but really making sure that we are a model for safety and security and that we're doing absolutely everything we possibly can, because I know as a community and as a board member, I want to make sure that we can do that. So I just wanted to point out that language in the proposal that will go on the ballot for really highlighting that at the top as one of the most important things we're doing.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments? Yes, Amy?
This is my first time ever seeing a preliminary qualification for bond. And as Ms. Dodd said, it is 102 pages long. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of detail in here. In our finance and operations meeting, we had an opportunity to kind of pick it apart, to ask questions. There's a lot of language in here that for me personally is unfamiliar. When we talk about bonds, they are not something that we do in our everyday life. And even in a business setting, which is what my background is, this is not something we talk about. So it was very interesting to me to find out the language that is used, but it's also interesting to me to find out how the state of Michigan views this bond proposal. What was also interesting to me was how much work we still had to do. Back in 2018, when we were talking about building futures, we had over $400 million worth of work that needed to be done in Huron Valley. We did an incredible amount of work with the existing bond that we have. But when I look at, line by line, there's still a lot of work to be accomplished. And unfortunately, those things that we identified in 2018, the cost for those things have increased. I would almost say they're almost double. Those are shocking numbers to all of us. We go to the grocery store, we know how much eggs and milk cost. Those things still apply to building supplies. And they also apply to the wages that we pay our trades folks as well. So those have also increased exponentially. When I looked at this plan, I said, well, what about this? And they said, okay, remember, these are the parameters. This may change. If we have something catastrophic like Oxford again, things may change. I hope we never have another Oxford again. But things may change. This does give us a roadmap for what we're going to do for the next 20 years. Ironically, there's technology in here. 3 years ago, we were not a one-to-one district. computer for one student. 3 years ago, we were not. Now we are. How long do we think those Chromebooks are going to last? If you have a student at home, you know that you've got to buy the insurance. They just don't last. But more than that, 3 years ago, we were not talking about AI. Now that's all we talk about, right? All of us are in webinars for whatever our business is, and we're talking about how AI is going to transform what we do. In 5 years, I don't know what the technology needs are going to be of Huron Valley, but I can guarantee you they will not be what we thought they were going to be in 2018. So this bond also talks about safety and security, for sure. It is really the thread that goes through this entire bond. But it's also thinking past, where do we need to be in 5 years with technology? And it's also those things that, quite frankly, none of us like spending money on. Roofs, HVAC systems, pipes, masonry. Those things are things that, even as homeowners, do I want to spend $20,000 on a roof? No, I don't. But you know what? I got to do it. I don't want to spend $5,000 on a furnace, but I got to do it. Huron Valley is really no different. We have all those things that, quite frankly, they just are part of our maintenance that will be part of this bond. And then we have all the safety and security. And yes, we are talking about building a new middle school. But I will tell you, everything else is way more than this new middle school. They really are. And these renovations they're needed. This is not about making things pretty. It just isn't. Huron Valley has some dramatic needs. I appreciate the fact that in our finance and operations meeting, we had TMP and Clark there, and they were able to clarify my questions, to give me the answers, and then the things that we didn't have answers for, Mr. Van Gotham came back and gave me those answers. So I feel very comfortable with where we are with this this bond proposal, and I just want to thank you for taking the time to walk me through how this works. It's brand new for me, so thank you very much. But thank you for the work that went in as well.
Thank you for your comments, Amy. Anything else? Yes, Jacob.
Just in the interest of transparency, I had talked to Mr. Van Gotham a while back about how the bond affects the taxpayer in general. And right now we know that the new bond wouldn't be sold until 2026. So there would be no relief to the taxpayer until that range, at which point per $100,000 roughly, so $100,000 in taxable value of your home, you would save approximately $200 per, I want to say $1 million, but I don't quote me. So there is a savings if we don't pass it, but the cost to benefit ratio, in my opinion, is far outweighed by the needs of our students and our community. So that's all.
Thank you, Jacob. Just a couple things. As Mr. Dimick pointed out, I think it's important to note, yes, if a bond issue didn't pass, the tax rate would go down. You might make some short-term savings, but the dramatic effect, as a homeowner in Huron Valley, would see on the value of my property would significantly outweigh that, because we want to be a destination. And one of the things that people always talk about is location and the quality of the schools, and that's extraordinarily important. So I know that we've had conversations in my role. We've talked about this bond issue. And Mr. Dimick, you just talked about cost benefit basically, and we as a district need to continue to move forward. And unfortunately, we see some districts out there right now that are being reactive as opposed to being proactive. And I think this bond issue is one that is extraordinarily proactive. In the sense that it moves the district forward. It allows our administration to provide the opportunities for kids. Everything that we do in this district affects student performance. And without having an environment that's safe and secure and provides the opportunities for us to attract and retain teachers, has a direct effect on student achievement. And this bond issue is just as instructional as anything else. And I think it's also important to note that we've said over and over again since the passage of the 2019 bond issue, where would we be if we didn't have this bond issue? where would we be as a school district to attract and retain staff and to attract and retain people to move into our community. And I'm proud of the work that we've done, but at the same time, I made a comment earlier thanking our transportation, our maintenance and operations people as it relates to keeping us going. This bond issue allows us to purchase buses. It also allows us to do the things that we don't like talking about but are necessary, such as roofs. I think, Jeffrey, you provided to the board some of the challenges we had last week as it relates to the mechanical pieces of our district and the cost as it relates to that. And while we can't repair, we can replace and renovate materials. And with this bond issue, we are able to do that. Our general fund is focused on providing direct instruction. 85% of our budget goes for salaries and benefits, which is in line with every other district because we're a service organization. If we didn't have a bond issue, all the things that you talked about, Amy, would have to come out of the general fund, which means there's less money for those types of things to attract and retain staff and so on and so forth. I think it's important to note that as Member Dodd mentioned, in our language, I knew that, in our language, it specifically states that this bond issue cannot be used in any ways for salaries or benefits. It has to be used for those things that are outlined in here. And it's significantly more than just a middle school. In fact, that cost certainly is small compared to all the other things that we need to be able to do in this district because we're such a large district. So it's important. At the same time, there might be a cost as it relates to this bond issue for the election, but that cost is minor compared to the dramatic effect it would have on our school district if we didn't move forward. And as I talked about the science of reading being an urgent, there's a sense of urgency. There's a sense of urgency as it relates to this so that we can provide as a board a direction for the community and for the tools for our administration to move forward as it relates to providing that innovative programming and opportunities for kids. So we always have people in the background, and I'm going to introduce, or I'm going to mention a couple of people. John Reeby has lived and breathed this last bond issue, all right, and will continue to live and breathe as we move forward and provide those opportunities. I also like to recognize Bill and Becky. Bill and Becky have been at our beck and call as it relates to not only this bond issue, but the planning and architectural work and the making it a reality from a TMP and from a Clark construction standpoint and from a TMP architectural standpoint. So they're here all the time. They're part of that group that's kind of behind the scenes. I always threaten them that they're going to have to come up to the podium, but I'm not going to follow through tonight, but I do want to recognize them because Amy did mention that. So I too support this, and I look forward to this becoming a reality. So we have a motion. Correct? Yep. We have a second. If there aren't any other comments or questions, and I certainly appreciate the comments and questions that were raised, could I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
Ms. Grisomkowski.
Yes.
I am a yes. Ms. Dodd.
Yes.
Mr. Dimick.
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next, under new business, A, Exhibit D, Special Board Policy Update. Dr. Slaw?
Yes. Thank you again, Mr. President. So we have a number of policies for our listening audience. We actually have engaged with Neola, who is a policy writing entity. They provide legal guidance for us, and they propose policy for board consideration. There have been a number of legislative changes over the course of the 23-24 school year that have precipitated a need for board policy to be revised in order to align with those legislative changes. These policies have visited the Finance and Operations Committee, the Executive Committee, the TLT Committee on differing occasions. There have also been board communications regarding these policies. We are not asking for action this evening. However, we are asking the board to take some time to review policy 0122, 1420, 2370.01, 3131, 3142, 3220, 7217, 7540.03, and 8531. As is customary, if we have any questions from the Board of Education, if you get those questions to us, we will respond accordingly. If we do not have the answer, we will engage with legal counsel in order to get you the answer, and we will send whatever response we get to the entire board so everyone has access to the same information. We will bring these policies back to the board on February 5th. I think it's important to note there is a timeline associated with these policies. While we will have an opportunity to have 2 readings, we will need the board to take action at the February 5th Board of Education meeting, because there are some timelines in the legislation that dictate when you need to have these things done.
Thank you very much. So you're looking for us to review these policies as you listed.
Ask any questions.
Ask any questions, and with the plan of bringing it to the board at, for
February 5th.
on February 5th for consideration. So we have a little bit of homework ahead of us. Next, Board Policy 5460, Graduation Requirements, Exhibit E.
Thank you. I would ask Mr. Tavernier to address this agenda item.
Yeah, so again, related to some policy updates, Section 380.1278A of the revised school code requires that Michigan students in 8th grade, current 8th graders, so those that are entering 9th grade next year, will need to complete a half credit of personal finance. And so that is new legislation and is requiring us to take a look at our board policy of graduation requirements, which is Board Policy 5460. So I'm going to turn it over again to Mr. Lindberg. He's going to review. This is something that has gone to the TLT committee. We've talked about this a couple times with different options, but Mr. Lindberg's going to review for you tonight the proposal that we're bringing forward. And again, we're not asking for any motion this evening, but this is under new business, and we'll be looking for board action at the February 5th meeting. So, Mr. Lindberg.
Thanks, John. As John mentioned, the state of Michigan has required that personal finance now be a class that all students take, beginning with the class of 2028. So that's our current 8th graders. And so this is something that's been out there for some time now, and we've had a lot of discussions about directions we want to go in. Really consulted with a lot of other schools, with Oakland schools as well, to get some feedback on directions that other schools are going as well. But just to start off, just so we all understand, all HVS students currently, right now, all 11th grade students take economics, and all HVS students are exposed to the personal finance content expectations, the ones I have listed here are on the board. Again, that's part of their economics class. It doesn't go into the detail that a full personal finance class would be, but they do get exposure to all these content expectations. The areas that I have highlighted up there are the areas that have been added with this new law. So you see like the FAFSA work, and then you see the paying taxes. Those are 2 areas that they have added that they would like covered as content expectations. But everything else up there, our students are getting exposure to that currently in their economics class. So what we did was we sat down on November 20th and met with teachers and staff from around the district. Teaching and Learning did, but we made sure we wanted to include a personal finance teacher. We wanted to include an economics teacher. We wanted to include math department chairs, counselors, administrators at the high school level, and have discussions about which direction we wanted to go in the pros and cons, and really wanted to look at some different things here. The outcome of this, the direction we ended up going in, all HVS representatives were supportive of and understood. There isn't a perfect situation, but we thought that the direction we went in was least disruptive to students while still meeting the intentions of the law, which we agree. We think students getting increased financial literacy is a good thing, and we want to be supportive of the new law. It was just trying to figure out how do we make that work for our incoming 8th graders, recognizing that we also value choice in everything with student classes. So currently, just so you understand, not only are our students exposed to the personal finance content expectations and economics, but we also have a personal finance class as well at both Lakeland and Milford High School. And really successful classes, Mrs. Lutz at Milford High School and Mr. Locke at Lakeland High School. It is offered to both 11th and 12th grade students in our course book, but really it is a 12th grade class for the most part. It's taught within the math department. I mentioned Mrs. Lutz and Mr. Locke. They're both math teachers in our district. But again, about 120 to 130 of our students in each of the schools take this course, and you can kind of see the breakdown over the last 5 years on how many sections that are offered in each class. What's important to note here is these students, the vast majority of them, are using that class as part of their fourth year math requirement. And so not all of our students, but again, it's approximately 40% of our students. So currently about 40% of our students are not only getting that exposure to economics or getting the exposure to personal finance and economics, but also taking this semester-long class where they dig into personal finance a lot more. So we have up here is our current graduation requirements, and so what this proposal would be saying is for the remaining classes, for the class of 2024 through the class of 2027, we would keep our current HVS graduation requirements, 22 credit hours. They have 24 credit opportunities when you think about 6 classes per semester for 4 years. And then right now they have approximately 4 to 6 elective choices throughout that time period. And again, this is for current up through the class of 2027, so our current 9th grade students. What our recommendation is that we are going to require all students, HVS students, to take personal finance to meet this new graduation requirement. We want to keep our graduation requirements at 22 credits, which we currently have. What that does is that does impact the elective choices from 4.5 to 3.5 to accommodate that new personal finance class. But kind of keep in mind, 40% of our kids are already doing that as well. And so recognizing that that does impact approximately 60% of our other students, we wanted to make sure that we consider other opportunities for them. Just like any class, students have the opportunity to test out of this class, and we would recognize and want to make sure that students are aware of this opportunity to test out. And then we're also exploring ways that we can provide this as an online enrichment course that could be taken outside of their 6-hour day as well. So again, trying to explore different things, again, trying to value the law and understanding how important financial literacy is, but also still trying to make sure our students have that choice for different classes and different experiences at the high school level. So this final slide here shows, again, the class of 2028 and moving on from there. Again, continuing with 22 credit hours, and now it's 3.5 to 6 true electives. And then you look in there as well, you see personal finance as a half credit class that is being offered. And then again, keeping in mind that this really wouldn't impact approximately 40% of our students who are currently taking that class as it is. And again, us trying to consider other opportunities to provide that support, whether it's through testing out or an online experience to master those financial literacy content expectations. Thank you.
Questions? Yes, Amy.
Sorry, it's my night to ask questions. So I'm just looking at the curriculum or the course options for Lakeland High School. Pulled up the course book. So if I am, I'm graduating class of 2028, I'm going to take algebra, geometry, and trig, right? Is that right? Algebra 2. I'm going to take those 3 classes, and then when I get to my senior year, I'm going to take personal finance, which is a half a semester credit, and then I have the option to take other classes that kind of fall under that math course, those math courses, things like accounting or business management or entrepreneurship or school store, stuff like that, correct?
That's correct, but there's also other students who maybe want to take pre-calculus or AP statistics, and so there's other options as well. So those students may be taking that class and then be exploring either taking personal finance as another class on top of that, or exploring other opportunities like we had mentioned, whether it's through the test out or through an online experience.
Okay.
But yes.
So then, basically, those students who would normally take senior math will take personal finance, and then they will have another elective math course, is what I'll call it.
Correct,
And
or a
then-
math-related experience. Yep.
Exactly. And then our, perhaps our AP students will then be taking their regular, whatever the AP choice is at that time, calc, stats. And then either they will give up one of their half-year electives, if they want to take that course in. They will either test out, or they may have an online course option. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to clarify, from, my daughter is class of 2028, so this will impact her. So I want to know how this works, so thank you very much.
Any other questions? This will be presented to us at the next board meeting for approval? Correct, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, approval of M&O dump truck purchase.
Thanks, Marty. Next up, we have Mr. Van Gotham will take this agenda item.
Thank you, Dr. Salas. So we brought this up at both the Executive Committee and Finance and Operations Committee last week, but the district internally uses our own M&O services for both snow removal and ice and salt and all that good stuff, as well as cutting grass throughout the year. And so we have a fleet of district-owned vehicles. We have a range of 2008 to 2019 in which these were purchased. We have one in particular, that's a 2008 GMC truck that's well past its end of life. It has numerous challenges that we discussed in detail at the committee meetings. While it only has 59,000 miles on it, those are really tough miles on the said vehicle. So we've received quotes on a new vehicle ranging from $81,000 to $90,000. We're going with the lowest cost. Again, this is a first read, so we're not asking the board for approval this evening, merely just providing this as a first read. The total cost is a little over $100,000 when we add a salter, spreader, and a plow to it. These are unfortunately general fund purchases, but we do a good job of strategically planning out these purchases every few years, and this cannot be a sinking fund into our capital project, but we're building it in with the maintenance and operations budget for the year, and so we are asking the board to consider this at the next board meeting for approval, so we can bring a new 2024 GMC dump truck into our fleet.
Thank you. Any questions? Laura?
Okay, just because I always do this, M&O is maintenance and operations. I know we use them interchangeably, but just so everybody knows, M&O, maintenance and operations. I've been spending the whole meeting trying to figure out if there's at least one I can point out. I also would like to encourage Mr. Van Gotham and Ms. Rothler to work together. Our students recently with the Village of Milford helped name some new snow plows. It was a big hit. So as we're getting this new truck, perhaps the creativity of our students might help give said truck a fun name. So just throwing that out.
I was waiting for you to do that. What was it?
The big dump.
All right.
There's actually 4. All right, got to do it now. So there's quite a few names they picked, but from Muir, the kids named one of the trucks Snow Day. Another one from Muir, Jimmy Neutron. Another one from Muir, Frozen, or no, this one from Kurtz, Frozen Fury. And finally from Kurtz, Big Dump. So look for those snow plows in the Village of Milford.
All right, and this will be brought forth at the next board meeting without a name, right? Based on my recollection, what you're recommending, is this vehicle available so that it could be put on the road?
So yes,
For this year.
the company who provided us with the lowest quote is actually holding the vehicle, but we will not actually move forward till the board takes action. We just asked out of a professional courtesy that they keep it because, like other townships and municipalities, these trucks go pretty quick with inventory being what it is with what's really a specialized vehicle, not common that you would just, you or I wouldn't go and pick up one of these things as a everyday car.
Right, okay. Thank you very much. Next, Board Policy 011 and 3220 updates.
Mr. Van Gothen will handle this one as well.
So you heard earlier in new business about special board policy updates. We brought these two other board policies for a different purpose, same reasoning. We had a couple updates, one with respect to 011 and the district's official name. So we talked about this at Exec and Finance and Operations Committee. There's just a discrepancy between board policy and what the Internal Revenue Service, or IRS for short, would point out that we need to have those lined up for purposes of documentation. And then 6320, which is the purchasing policy that the board approved about 15 months ago. One of the requirements is on an annual basis that we would update that policy for an increase in the purchasing limit for everyday purchases. And so we're asking for some additional language being put into our board policy to acknowledge that on an annual basis. So again, a first read, we're not asking for action at this point in time, but some additional homework for the board to take a note of, and we'll be asking on the February 5th for that to be approved.
Great, thank you. Once again, it'll be brought forth and recognized at the next board meeting. So if you have any questions, please see Mr. Van Gothen. All right, that was the last under new business. With board permission, I'd like to go ahead and move 7 and 8, public comments on non-action items in good and welfare, before I have a motion as it relates to closed session. Is there any objections to that? Is there any public comments, any additional public comments? All right, seeing none, good and welfare. Is there anything? Good and welfare, yes. Member Dodd?
I would just like to extend a thank you to the Huron Valley Martin Luther King Jr. Committee. This was their 19th year presenting specialized programs for our community to make sure that we continue to learn from the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. They present a march on Main Street where a group walks down Main Street and listens to Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, and then end up at the Susan Haskew Arts Center for some folks who are interpreting the theme of the year, which this year was justice, in some form of art, be it writing or songs, pieces of artwork, etc. And it's a nice way for the community to come together and really help that legacy live on. Then on the day itself, on Martin Luther King Day, which we have as a school holiday, they host a day of service. And the last few years, at least, the day of service has been in support of community sharing. We put together soups, so a whole bunch of things put together in a nice bag. So anyone who is in need of some food will have an opportunity to get a nice bag of soup decorated by a bunch of the folks from the community. Isaac Perry, who we talked about earlier tonight, has been the chair of that committee, and he also has a wonderful crew of community volunteers who help every year. Special shout out to John Trevernier, who carried the American flag from the parking lot of Kroger all the way to the Susan Haskew Art Center. I think it was maybe 5 degrees, and I'm glad to see that he still has all fingers and toes working. It was a wonderful event. Nice to see the community come together, and it's great to see folks from our school district taking their free time to be able to put something forward like this for our community.
Thank you, Laura. Any other thing good and welfare? Yes, Member Cotter?
Yes, I want to thank you, Tom, for your comments you made regarding your board that you work with during this month. But I also want to address to you, your leadership has been essential for our board. The time you take to keep us informed and the community informed, I really appreciate, as does the rest of this board, the work that you do to keep us all in line. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that, but it's easy with a board like you, like we have, so, thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Jacob?
I was pointing to Ms. Pastano, but I'll go first. I just wanted to say that we did have the opportunity at Milford to recognize some of our former giants within the Milford High School community who really were huge influences on and off the court/field, and it was quite an honor to be there just to see those people being recognized. Some much more recent graduates and some who've been out of school for a number of years, and it really is a beautiful thing to take the time and just let somebody know that the legacy that they have left within our community is being noticed, and they are inspirational. So I was quite honored to be there, and that was it.
Great, thank you. Yes, Denise?
So you mentioned it, Mr. President, but I'm going to follow up to give a shout out to M&O Maintenance and Operations. The 2 Saturdays ago where we had the big snowstorm, I happened to be on the east side of the district, and I went down Bogey Lake Road, and I'm telling you, Lakeland High School was clearer than Bogey Lake Road. There was cement. They just did a tremendous job, and I know it was hard work, and I just want them to know that we really appreciate. We appreciate everything that everybody does, but that Saturday, I think they went above and beyond. So, thanks, M&O.
Or maintenance and operations.
Either way.
Yeah. Anything else? Next on the agenda is an item as it relates to going to closed session as it pertains to discussing student discipline. I'd like to take a moment. Section 8B of the Open Meeting Act permits a school board to meet in closed session to consider the expulsion, suspension, or disciplining of a student if the student or student's parents or guardian requests that closed session. Open Meeting Act is not a consideration when disciplinary hearings are conducted by a school administrator. Following the closed session, our Board of Education must meet in open session to act on this matter. This practice is consistent with the requirements that all decisions of a school board must be made at a meeting open to the public. However, Open Meeting Act specifically prohibits school boards from including personally identifiable information on students in meeting minutes in violation of the Federal Educational Rights in Privacy Act. So when acting on the suspension or expulsion of a student, a Board of Education must not disclose any personally identifiable information about the student without express parental consent, or if the student is 18 or older, the student's consent. With that, I'm looking for a motion as it relates to going into closed session. At that point in time, we will discuss student discipline. Once that discussion has occurred, we will reconvene into open meeting to consider the petition for reinstatement to the board. So that will be the steps that we take. So with that, I need to have a motion from a member of the board recommending this fact.
I'll make a motion that we move to closed session for the petition for reinstatement.
All right, and do I have a second?
I'm going to support that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So the motion was made by Mr. Dimick, seconded by Ms. Cotter. Any questions, any discussion? Seeing none, could I have a roll call, please?
Yep. Mr. Dimick?
Yes.
Ms. Cotter?
Yes.
Ms. Dodd?
Yes.
Ms. Grisomkowski?
Yes.
I am a yes. Mr. Wiseman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
With that, we're going to go in adjournment for a closed session. At that point in time, once that is done, we will reconvene into open session. No have a motion to move that the Huron Valley Schools Board of Education move back to open session. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion that the Board of Education go back into open session.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And we have a motion, we have a second. Could I have a roll call, please?
Sorry. Ms. Dodd?
Yes.
Ms. Grismkowski?
Yes.
Mr. Dimick?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Ms. Cotter?
Yes.
And Mr. Wiseman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Board meeting of the Huron Valley Schools is now in open session. Next is Exhibit H, petition for reinstatement. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that, I don't have it right in front of me, actually. Give me one sec. Make a motion that the board, make a motion that we vote on the petition for reinstatement to uphold the committee recommendation.
I'll support.
So we have a motion to move the Board of Education to deny the reinstatement of student B as presented, and is that correct?
That is correct, yes. Or
And-
to go with the committee recommendation, which is denial, yes.
Okay, and I had a second from
Ms.
Mr.
Dodd?
Dodd. Is there any, all right. With that, could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Dimick?
Yes.
Ms. Dodd?
Yes.
Ms. Cotter?
Yes.
Ms. Grismkowski?
Yes.
I am a yes. Mr. Wiseman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
With that, this meeting is adjourned.